Someone removed a child from a crash scene in broad daylight while witnesses stood watching. They drove away, and for 39 years, no one has answered for it. Juan Pedro Martinez Gomez was 10 years old in the summer of 1986. He had earned good grades in school that year. As a reward, his father, Andres Martinez Navarro, allowed him to come along on a work trip. Andreas was a truck driver. On the night of June 24th, 1986, he was commissioned to drive a tanker from Las Canaves, a small municipality in Fuente Alamo de Murcia, north of the port city of Bilbao. The tanker carried 20,000 liters of sulfuric acid. Juan Pedro's mother, Carmen, also made the journey. 3 family members, 1 truck, 1 long road north. The last confirmed sighting of the family was at a restaurant near the N1 motorway, close to the town of Cabanelas de la Sierra. They ate, they drove on. What happened next would consume the rest of their family's lives for 4 decades. Blood on the grass won't wash away. Undetected footprints. At approximately 6:30 in the morning on June 25th, 1986, Andreas' truck entered the curve on the Somosierra mountain pass. He was traveling at an excess of 140 kilometers per hour. The truck skidded, it overturned. The impact ruptured the cistern. 20,000 liters of sulfuric acid flooded the road. It washed over the cabin. It damaged the remains of both parents. Both Andreas and Carmen died on the scene. Emergency services arrived. They worked quickly. They contained the acid. They preserved what they could of both bodies. Juan Pedro was not there. There was no body, no blood trail leading away from the wreckage, no evidence that the acid had reached him, no evidence that he had survived the impact and walked away. What investigators found were several items of clothing belonging to a 10-year-old boy, nothing more. The first theory from investigators was straightforward. The sulfuric acid had dissolved Juan Pedro's body completely. No remains meant no recovery. Case closed. That theory did not survive scrutiny. For a human body to be dissolved by sulfuric acid, it must be fully submerged, completely. The acid that spilled at Somosierra flooded the road, but it did not pool at a sufficient depth to submerge a 10-year-old child. Furthermore, the quick response of local emergency services had prevented the acid from dissolving the bodies of both parents. If the acid had not fully destroyed 2 adult bodies in the cabin, it had not destroyed a child who had left behind clothing at the scene. The acid theory was ruled out. Investigators then turned to the truck itself. They examined the tachograph, a device that records a vehicle's speed, distance, and every stop it makes. What they found shifted the entire direction of the investigation. In the final 13 kilometers before the crash, Andreas' truck had made 12 separate short stops. 12 stops on a mountain road. In the early hours of the morning, on a route with almost no other vehicles present, a traffic jam was ruled out immediately. The road was clear. The truck had passed a safety inspection specifically for this trip. There was no mechanical reason for those stops. The reason could not be determined. It was at that point that investigators dismantled the truck inside. They discovered traces amounts of heroin. Neither Andreas nor Carmen had criminal records. No history of drug use, no history of distribution, but when investigators pressed the family, the truth emerged. Andreas had been coerced by a local drug smuggling ring to transport heroin north. He had no choice. He was not a willing participant. He was a man who had been threatened into carrying a cargo he never agreed to carry. With that information, everything changed. Investigators now theorized that another vehicle had been following Andreas' truck that night. Not an ordinary vehicle, a vehicle belonging to the same smuggling ring following a monitored progress to ensure the delivery arrived. And the theory that has haunted this case for 39 years is this: Juan Pedro was not in the truck when it crashed. He had already been taken, used as collateral, leverage to ensure his father completed the delivery. The 12 stops on that final stretch of road may not have been random. They may have been the result of Andres attempting to pursue whoever had his son, or the result of a man driving in panic at 140 kilometers per hour on a mountain curve because he already knew his child had been seized. That would explain everything: the speed, the stops, a man who was not driving to Bilbao anymore, a man who may have been chasing something he could never catch. At the crash scene that morning, there were witnesses. Multiple accounts described a couple who arrived shortly after the accident: a tall, middle-aged man, an elderly woman who identified herself as a nurse. They arrived in a white Nissan Vanita, foreign accents. According to witnesses, this couple did not stop to help. They searched the truck. They removed a bundle from the wreckage. They loaded that bundle into their van. Then they drove away quickly. A bundle that may have been a 10-year-old boy. Police investigated more than the 3,000 vans matching the description of that white Nissan Vanette. 3,000 vehicles traced, tracked, examined. Zero conclusive results. Zero arrests, zero answers. Interpol was brought in. The case was formally designated as one of the strangest missing persons cases to have occurred in Europe during the late 20th century. That designation still stands today. There are those who believe Juan Pedro Martinez survived, that he was taken alive, used as leverage, and then absorbed into a criminal network operating across Spain and Europe in the mid-1980s. If that is true, Juan Pedro would be 49 years old today, somewhere, with no memory of who he was, or no ability to speak of it, or both. There are those who believe he did not survive, that a 10-year-old who had witnessed the deaths of both of his parents, or who had been taken from the scene of their deaths, represented a liability no criminal organization would allow to walk away. Neither theory has ever been proven. What is known is this: his parents drove north on a summer morning to give him a reward for doing well in school. He never arrived anywhere. He never came home, and the people responsible, whoever they were, have faced no consequence in nearly 4 decades. Juan Pedro's family has spent 39 years searching for answers. His aunt, interviewed decades after the disappearance, said only this: "Our nephew was taken by drug traffickers." This is the family's position. It has not changed in 39 years. They have never accepted the acid theory. They have never accepted that Juan Pedro simply vanished. They believe he was taken. They believe the people who took him were connected to the ring that coerced his father. They have never received justice. The case remains open. It has never been officially closed. Juan Pedro Martinez Gomez is still listed today as a missing person. What happened on the Somosierra mountain pass on the morning of June 25, 1986 was not a tragic accident. It was the end result of coercion, exploitation, and the use of a child as a bargaining chip by people who viewed human life as a transaction. Andres Martinez was not a drug trafficker. He was a man who was forced into a role he never chose, and who died at 140 kilometers per hour on a mountain curve, possibly chasing whoever had his son. Carmen Gomez died in that same crash. She had come along for a family road trip. And Juan Pedro, who had earned his place on that truck with nothing more than good grades in school, was taken in daylight, with witnesses present, by people who were never identified, never arrested, never held accountability. This is who they are: people who took a child from a crash scene while his parents lay dying beside him. Wherever they went, This is what they did, and the world has largely moved on. Undetected Footprints has not. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now. Never stop praying. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness.
Blood on the grass won't wash away undetected footprints.